Shrutismritipurananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashakritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavatyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Gukarastu Andakaro Vai Rukarastu Nivattakaha Andakara Nirodhitvat Gururitya Vidhiyate Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvisha Vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we have been looking at how to attain independence, a sense of independence from all of my controlling entities in the world that limit my ability to be completely independent and be happy. So control, dependency is equated to dukkha, and independence is equated to sukha. And so this is what we are looking for. Pardon me. And also, as Shastra points out, that the sense of independence, in fact, is my own nature, but one that I'm not aware of. Even when I get a glimpse of it, my mind is so affected by the habitual thinking that I go back to a feeling of dependency to others and so on. After a life of discipline, if I become a bhakta, a very prayerful devotee of Ishvara, even then my independence is incomplete because I'm dependent on Ishvara as being separate from me. And so the whole faith is to be actualized as something that I can understand, but not something that can become a lifestyle for me, because I'm depending on knowledge-based, knowledge-less faith, and it's always in the future, not in the present. So, on the other hand, if I can do a jnana-purvakam bhakti. Jnana-purvakam bhakti means that bhakti is, of course, very essential to have a prayerful attitude towards the Ishvara is absolutely essential. You cannot do without it. But that bhakti has to be preceded by a very good understanding of how this is going to work. How does it work even today? And what do I need to do in order to gain that sense of independence? And for that, I need the help of Ishvara. But I'm aware of the fact that I am basically independent. So in Vedanta, we stress that bhakti is no doubt essential, but it has to be jnana-purvakam bhakti. So with respect to that, jnanam here points to viveka. So viveka in the sense that my sense of limitedness, what is called jivatvam, my whole conclusion that I am just a living being, a limited living being, is perceived to be a reality in itself. It has some changes, but basically it is what I see in my life. Rather than a superimposition upon unlimitedness. That's a big difference. If I see the sense of limitation as a reality in itself, then I'm behaving in a certain way, But if I see that as a kind of a cover to my reality, then it's a different matter altogether. So this is exactly what happens when people play the role in a drama or a movie. That you have a sense of limitation, you have a sense of a role that has been given to you, but deep down below, you know that that's a superimposition upon your own reality of a person. And so you can see how the attitude is completely different. Same issue here, that I see my sense of limitation not as a superimposition on myself, but as a reality by itself. This is what needs to be inquired into and understood very clearly. In another stated in another way, it's kind of like the room spaceness, the ability of Chidakasha to know that I am a limited room, limited part, is not a real thing. It is a notion which is built upon the fact that I am really space. I am a Chidakasha. And so there's a big difference. If the room space believes that this is what I am, different from others, then it's a problem. But if it understands that this is a superimposition upon myself as an unlimited being, then my whole attitude changes. Now, what it means is, this takes us to the topic that we are currently discussing, that a good measure of the sense of limitation, jivatvam. Jivatvam means sense of a limited being. A good measure of that is kartritvam. So kartritvam means a sense of doing, that I am the doer. Kartritvam means I am the doer. I am taking care of my life. I have to do things. No one else can really be responsible for it. I am responsible for it. Yes, others can help, my parents can help, my spouse, my children, my doctor, my lawyer, my accountant. All of those people are playing a supporting role, but I am the doer. This is synonymous to the fact that I am a limited being. So the some sense of limitation and a sense of doership go hand in hand. You cannot have one without the other, isn't it? It's kind of like if you observe something, what you observe, the observed and the observer are a pair. You cannot do one without the other. So when you say observation, so observation means observer and observed. It's a pair. So similarly to that is jivatvam and kartritvam. So if you have a sense of limitation, then you will have a sense of doership, and vice versa. This appears to be the truth that I have to look at. So, this now leads to the next point, which we have been hinting at, and now we're going to address it head on today, that a way to reduce your sense of jivatvam, because the jivatvam is not always there with the same intensity. You see, it's not there. When you are happy at doing something, happy at just not even doing anything, you're just happy, there's no sense of jivatvam. But suppose you find someone who invokes a sense of competition or a jealousy, then jivatvam raises its head. Against jivatvam, being tied to the mind disappears during the deep sleep, not during the dreams, but in the deep sleep. So therefore we can say that the jivatvam also comes and goes. It also has ups and downs, intense, less intense. But when it is there, you cannot avoid kartritvam. So therefore that brings to the point that a measure of your reducing your jivatvam can be measured by how much you embrace kartritvam. And what we are now addressing in these classes is how to reduce kartritvam. Because if you reduce kartritvam, your sense of limitation will also go down. And then if you understand in totality that you are not the karta, which we will slowly address as we go along, then your sense of limitation also will completely disappear. So the body, etc., will always be there, but you will not have a sense that this is me. It is really not the body, which is not the body-mind complex, which is a problem, but taking the body-mind complex to be yourself is the issue. This is what we have to see. So here, to proceed further on reducing kartritvam through viveka, not through bhakti. Bhakti means that you do a prayer, Hey Bhagavan, you are doing everything, I am not doing anything, you are taking care of me, I am at your Sharnagati. By saying that and by feeling that, it is not really helpful. So it kind of makes you feel better for a while, but deep down below, you have not given up the very basic conclusion that you are the one who is doing. And Ishvara can sometimes bestow a grace on you, other times that grace seems to be missing. And so that doesn't really do anything for me. It's not something permanent. So it has to be permanent. Then a viveka-based reduction of kartritvam has to be done. So this is where this chapter that Swami Akhandananda has written, this one particular set of discourses that I'm taking up, is being addressed head on. And we already, to indicate exactly what we have to do, how we have to think about it, we take the refuge of a very important verse from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse number 61, which we chanted last time. But that is the one that we are now going to focus on. If we begin to understand the meaning of that verse, we can apply it to ourselves and then to live a life of application of that verse to reduce my kartritva. So here it goes. Let's start on that. This is how we ended the last class, and this is what we're going to do today. So what we said was that in the 18th chapter, 61 and 62, there are two pair of verses, but here the 61 is the important one. It says, Ishvara sarva bhutanam hrit deshe arjuna tishtati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra arudhani mayaya. Once again, Ishvara sarva bhutanam hrit deshe arjuna tishtati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra arudhani mayaya. So this is number 61. And in 62 it says, Tameva sharanam gaccha sarva bhavena bharata tat prasadat param shantim syat shantim sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam. So let's look at the English meaning of these two verses, and then we will proceed on. So the English meaning of the first verse is, Hey Arjuna, Ishvara mounted on the hearts of all beings. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati. It stays mounted. That will the word mounted will come in the second part of the verse. Hriddeshe sarva bhutanam. Hriddeshe means in the heart of all beings. Ishvara's, hey Arjuna, Ishvara is situated, tishtati, sarva bhutanam, all beings. Brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra arudhani mayaya. So the mounting is by arudhani, that the Ishvara, by the virtue of mounting, as though, we will understand all the meaning in a minute, but mounting situated and mounted in the heart of all beings, makes them work, makes them change, makes everything happen. Brahmayan sarva bhutani. Brahmayan means, so there'll be two meanings of Brahmayan. Brahmayan means making them change, as though it's a change. Brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra arudhani mayaya. So we're going to look into each one of these words and understand it, and then we will put it all together. This is the first one. Then he says, Tameva sharanam gaccha. Tameva means kimeva ishwarameva. Ishwaraya sharanam kuru. May you take the refuge in that person who mounted in your heart is making you work. Sarva bhavena, in all possible ways, whatever bhava you have, whatever thinking you have, whatever conclusions you have, whatever attitudes you have, whatever transactions you do in my life, in your life, make that, offer that as an offering to that one Ishvara who mounted in your heart is making you move. And if you do that, tat prasadat param shantim, by the prasada of this attitude, by the grace of Ishvara's grace of your attitude towards Ishvara, prapsyasi sthanam shashvatam, you will gain a place where you will not change from. There is no one will take you away from that, because that is your own swarupa. So all these are prophetic words, and we have to really understand all aspects of it. So let us start on that process. So once again, Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hriddeshe Arjuna Tishtati Brahmayan Sarvabhutani Yantra Arudhani Mayaya, by Maya. We will understand, we will look into that, all that. What does it mean? Tameva Sharanam Gacha Sarvabhavena Bharata. Hey Bharata, hey Arjuna, different ways of addressing the same person. Tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam. Okay, so these are the verses. Now let us go into the more detailed meaning, the importance, the understanding behind these verses. Very profound, very profound. So I'll make several separate points, maybe 5 or 6 separate points. Number 1, by these verses, so these verses are something that all verses of the Bhagavad Gita, but some verses more than others, one has to really take to heart. Because we, when we first read the Gita, then it kind of becomes interesting, but it passes us by. See, the Gita is more than interesting. It is very profound. But we cannot engage in the profundity unless it catches us and makes us think and makes us see, affects us profoundly. That's really what we need to do. Each one of the verses, you can just go into, each one of the verses is very revealing, very insightful. And this happens to be one of them. I'm telling you, this particular, probably more than any others, I have seen quoted in different books at different times by different Mahatmas. Very important verse. So I'm going to make several points to highlight the profundity of it. And the profundity meaning that it needs to arrest our thinking. Really? Is that a fact? Oh my goodness. Not just see the word and go on to the next one. Okay, what's number next? So the first point is Ishvara is the antaryami in each one of us, in you, in me, and everyone else that is alive. He is the antaryami. Antaryami is called ante tishthan yamayati yaha. Saha Antaryami Ante Tishtan Yamayati. So we will come to a final gist of this a little bit later on, but I can point out to you now. And it's too soon to really have a profound effect at this point, but let me state it anyway. And I will, this is exactly as they say that any effective speech should say, this is what I'm going to tell you. Then you tell it, and then in the end you say, this is what I told you. So what I'm going to tell you is, believe it or not, Ishwaram is the Karta, not you and I. This is a very tall statement. It has to be proven. We will do our best to prove it. But this is the goal. You think you are the Karta, you are not. You may remember, some of you may remember, I don't know, if you took some classes with me, have been taking classes with me, and I've mentioned this fact to you more than once, and most recently during the course on Brahma Sutra, that in the year of 2002, I think it was, I was very privileged to be part of an important gathering of all the Swamis that Swami Dayananda had put together in Anaikatti. And this is where I met Swami Paramarthananda also, and many of the others. Swami Viditatmananda and Swami Tattvavinanda were not there in that gathering. But there must have been about 70, 80 other Swamis and other people who had completed the course even though they are not Swamis, like me. And in that course, Swamiji had taken a text. This was 1 week course. And the topic of the course was that topic under Brahma Sutra that asks the question, who is the Antaryami in the Jivas? So as you know very well, the Brahma Sutra is fashioned as both Purvapaksha and Siddhanta. It's like two very capable, very, very well-informed lawyers that present their case very articulately. This is what happens in the Supreme Court. You have both the lawyers who are, it's not like one person is not very well read and so on, the other person is very well read. No. Both of them have a viewpoint, and both the viewpoints can be put together, has to be put out, or not put together, but put out in a very articulate manner. So this is what Brahma Sutra is. Brahma Sutra. So that's why when we study Purvapaksha and Siddhanta, when we study alternate schools of thought, we give them a lot of honor because they do a good job of articulating. We don't push them aside and say, oh, you don't know, you know what you're talking about. All of them. And the idea is that please ask me tough questions, the ones that I can answer. So anyway, so this is what Brahma Sutra is all about. So in that particular session in the year 2002, Puja Swamiji took the Antaryami section from Brahma Sutra. So in that section, there are two sets of lawyers. One set of lawyer argues that the Antaryami is the Jiva. And it says, very articulately done, it's obvious. Why is there a question about it? Don't you feel responsible for your life? Yes, for the first few years you are under the care of your parents because you are not completely developed yet. That's understandable. But once you become on your own, you study, there you are now responsible for leading your life in a particular way. Are you a good student? Do you wake up early in the morning and study? Are you in sports or not? Later on, should I get married or not? Who should I marry? And what kind of lifestyle I should have? How many children? All that depends on the jiva. Should I have a healthy diet or should I just enjoy myself? Depends on the jiva. Everything depends on the jiva. Isn't it? Don't we feel responsible? This is the argument. Therefore, the jiva is the antaryami. Jiva is the one who is the karta, jiva is the one who is the bhokta. And the best way to do that is to find out what should I do, and I learn from my experiences, improve upon it, and I am the one who is taking responsibility. So, sir, the judge, I argue that jiva is the antaryami. Then he sits down. The other one comes up. It says, Your Honor, this is not true. It appears that the jiva is the antaryami, but let me tell you the facts that will prove that it is Ishvara situated in the hearts of people who is the antaryami. It is not the jiva. It appears like jiva is the antaryami, but it's not the antaryami. So he presents a lot of facts, and we have been doing some of that. We will continue to do more of that. So anyway, I just wanted to present this. So this argument is Ishvara is the antaryami, not the jiva. The jiva might play some very minor roles, and that role also is sanctioned by Ishvara. But really everything is created, everything is modulated, everything is controlled by Ishvara. And then he sits down. And then Vedavyasa, who wrote the Brahma Sutra and represents the sampradaya, the Shaiva sampradaya, from the Shiva sampradaya, not Shaiva. Shaiva is a viewpoint. Not just delete that word. No. It is the Shankaracharya Madhyamam. In the very beginning, Ishvara's, that he represents that sampradaya. In other words, this is the authority of the Shruti, gives his judgment. And I can imagine he can address the lawyer from Jivatvam and say, I must admire you for what a good case you presented. And really, if it is not for this other gentleman, I would have been persuaded that indeed Jiva is the antaryami. But this person here has presented such a good case that I have to pronounce the judgment, Ishvara is the antaryami. Case closed. This is the beginning statement. And if you want to see what arguments the lawyer for Ishvara presented, this is what we have to see. So if you are a law student and you say, I wonder what What arguments were presented that convinced the judge that Ishvara is the Antaryami? If you were to ask that, then please study on. So this is what I wanted to do. Was the first point I wanted to point out is that we should understand that in our life we must see that Ishvara is doing everything for me. I am just a puppet in his hands. And it looks like the puppet says, I'm moving. You know how the puppets move from jerky to hergy jerky? That's how it looks like. I'm moving, I'm coming close to someone, and I'm doing this and so on. And I'm doing everything. But behind the scenes, somebody is changing all the puppet shows are really beautiful, really enjoyable. Okay, so that's number one. Okay, then point number two. So we're going to look at each of the points out of this verse. So the one thing was Ishvara. Okay, that was the one point that we did, and Ishvara will also be inherent at other points during this also, but we've already done that word, Ishvara. Meaning, Ishvara is the Antaryami, and Antaryami means he's the one who makes each one of us move. Same one Ishvara does the whole creation. Incredible. Then, the next word is Hridaya. So we now go back to the Jiva. What do you mean by Sarva Bhuta Nam Hrit Deshe Arjuna Tishthati? So what is Hrit Desha? What is the location called Hridaya? Heart. Where is it? Where does the Ishvara work from? Where is it situated? So here, as you know, we know that very well, this does not refer to a physical heart. It is not this Angushtamatra Purushaha, because the heart is the size of a closed fist, almost like the shape of a closed fist, like this. And this can be manipulated, as mine was when I had my heart surgery, how it was cut open. My chest was cut open into two parts, and the doctor was able to go in and put some artificial machine to keep the functions of the body going while the heart was stopped and operated on. So that is what is called the physical body. No, it is not the physical body. Then what is it? This is what is called the core of the jiva. The core of the jiva. And the core of the jiva is approximately situated in the same place where the physical heart is also there. So this, how do you mean by there? So this is what it is. So when you become very fearful, suddenly something fearful happens, where you are in danger of your life, something threatening. That sense of fear occurs right here, in the middle of this chest. It's not as though it appears on the left arm, or the mouth, or the nose. No, not even in the brain, not even any other part of the body, but here, in the center of, this is what called the core of the human being. And same thing when you, for example, supposing you have a fight with somebody, someone serious fight, and you have a serious argument with someone, and you take a vow that I will pay you back for this, what you have done to me. I will do so. I promise. You touch the middle of your body, right here. You don't actually touch the heart itself, but just the core. So the core of the human being is in this direction. You don't say, I will tell you what we'll do. You might do a fist or something. But the ego, this is what the next point is for what we are talking about, is the heart. This, I will, who do you think I am? You take me lightly? I will show it to you. This is the heart. So in technical terms, the Hridaya is called Vijnanamaya Kosha. So out of the 5 koshas, 5 places where my sense of jivatvam expresses itself, which is Annamaya Kosha, which is the body, the physical body, the skin and the shape and the gender. Then Manomaya Kosha, then the Pranamaya Kosha, all the physiological functions, the breathing, the circulation, the blood flow, physiology, Pranamaya Kosha. Then Manomaya Kosha, the entire mind. And this mind is a very phenomenal creation, and we're going to hopefully do a course on this very soon. I've been reading up on that, and I think it'll be interesting to really look at the mind. But the mind is not a single entity. It is my entire world that I am. That is not where the jivatvam lies. So we have Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha. The next one, Vijnanamaya Kosha, is the seat of the sense of limitation, me. Vijnanamaya Kosha. That is me. And here also, it also contains the Anandamaya Kosha. And the Anandamaya Kosha, as we have studied in Taittiriya Upanishad, and also sometimes in the Panchadashi, the last 15 chapters, it came up in several ways. The Anandamaya Kosha is really the core of the Ishvara in you, the sense of happiness and satisfaction. That is the Anandamaya Kosha, which resides in the human being also, because the human being is nothing but an aspect of Ishvara. So the Ishvara's Ananda becomes Anandamaya Kosha in the human being. And that is very closely associated with the Vijnanamaya Kosha. So in short, the Vijnanamaya Kosha represents the individuality, and that represents the Hridaya. Hriddeshe Arjuna Tishtati. So where does the Ishvara manifest himself? It is in a sense of individuality. That is the core of the human being. Okay? So now we have done Ishvara and we have done the word Hridaya. Tishtati, Sarvabhutanam, very obviously, all the beings. Arjuna, Hriddesha. Then the next one we're going to look at is Yantra Arudhani. Yantra here means it's a short of in the place of, or you can even say in the form of a yantra. Yantra means a functioning vastu, something which is functioning as a function, like a fan or a light bulb or an air conditioner. So these are all yantras. Yantras means that they are I think there's an English word which is close to yantra. I'm escaping that in my mind. Anyway, it will come to me, but a functioning appliance you can say, an appliance. Yantra is an appliance. Yes, I think there's another word that I'm thinking of, but the word appliance is pretty close to it. So, yantra arudhani. So the yantra arudhani means that it's mounted on the yantra. It is mounted on the appliance. What is the appliance? The appliance is the functioning jiva. So, you can, all these technology companies are working on these robots. Some have already been there. I don't know if you've been to some of these malls. There is a mall in San Jose, and I think we have seen it. They have a roving robot, and it looks like R2-D2. It moves like this. It has a head and a body, and those are rudimentary, but apparently they are, with the artificial intelligence and all that, you can make a very intelligent robot. Like, for example, I can visualize, I don't know, this is all just visualization. You can go, let's say you go to the mall, and right now you have to look at, supposing you're interested in something, maybe a restaurant. And then you have to look at all these names of the restaurants, or maybe a shoe shop. You have to buy a shoe for children. So you have to look at shoes and so on. Here in this artificial intelligence robot, you can just tell him, hey, I'm looking for a shop which specializes in children's shoes and not too expensive. I don't want to pay completely. And so you keep on doing it. And perhaps the robot will ask you some questions. How much are you willing to spend or whatever? And then you say, that's what I'm interested in. So it says, okay, let me tell you. There are two shops. One is on your left and the other one on your right. The one on the left closes at 8 o'clock. Like that, it'll give you some intelligent answers. So this is what is called an appliance, a yantra. So the human being is exactly like that. We are like a robot. We learn a lot from all the information that has been stored inside of me. I have short-term memory and some long-term memory. And I have some, if I can look up, I have some other instruments that I can use, and I can communicate, and I can speak some languages that you can understand. So this is like a yantra. So this is a very beautiful creation of Ishvara. And what your capability is and who you are, yes, it can have some minor changes to it. But it was all given to you, all the possibilities. This is what is called yantra arudhani. That the Ishvara is as though mounted on you through your individuality and makes the entire appliance function. This is a fact. This is exactly what happens. And I don't know that. I don't know who's doing this. Don't know where all that capability is coming from. I don't realize that I am just the appliance and there is something, there's an electricity. Here in these discourses, Swami Akhandananda was saying that somebody can ask this question. Wait a second. If it is Ishvara that is doing everything, then all the wrong and right deeds and their consequences should also go to Ishvara? Why should they come to me? Because I'm not the doer. You tell me I'm not the doer. Ishvara is the doer. So let him take care of our punya papa. I'm free. So the answer to that is, I'm sorry to say that is not the way it works. No. Then how does it work? It is kind of like an appliance which says, if there is a malfunction and if I put too much current, this is what happened the other day. I have an electric car, and so when we had installed a level 2 charger, the 220 volt charger, then we had to spend money. It was so costly to get an electrician to add a 220 volt extension on the basic electrical box outside the house, because the full current of 220 was already used up. There wasn't enough capacity. So he said, I have to use a new circuit. So I said, okay, fine. I need to have a level 2 charger. So he put in a brand new circuit, connected it to the charger, and it started working. So just some time ago, about 2-3 weeks ago, maybe 2-3 months ago, I wake up in the morning and I check to see if the car charged fully, because I start doing it in the night time, and lo and behold, it didn't charge. So I said, that's very funny. What's going on? So I found out that the charger was not turned on. There was some kind of a problem, and I had no idea what was going on. Then it occurred to me that one of my friends had told me that the circuit that he had connected could not take the amount of amperage that the car was doing it, and uh, the charger flipped off. So I says, maybe that's what has happened to me. Sure enough, that is exactly what happened to me. Because normally everything was okay, but on that day, the car may have just or the circuit breaker broke. So all we had to do was to flip the circuit breaker, and it was working. So it's very possible that the appliance may malfunction. So it's very possible that the human being can malfunction. You can do something stupid. You can have an argument with somebody, and you can have such an argument that you get into a road rage, and God forbid if you are in United States and everybody has a gun, and you take a gun out and you shoot the other person. Idiotic, but in the heat of the argument you did it. So if that's the case, then all of the Bhoktritvam should also go to Ishvara, not to me. So the samadhanam to this Purva Paksha is not so fast, Buster, because if the appliance malfunctions, nothing happens to the electricity. Not the fault of the electricity, even though the observed function involves the electricity. But really speaking, if there is a malfunction, then you cannot blame the electricity for it. So even that is the case, then there is actually a Swami Akhandananda was reciting a passage from Ramayana. And the passage was that King Bharat, when Rama went to the forest, and he was banished to the forest for 14 years by Kaushalya and his father, then Bharat was asked to be the king, even though he didn't want to be the king, but he became the king. So Bharat was, of course, a very religious person, a very pure-hearted person. He didn't want to have this feeling that I am now the king and I can do this. And he was very humble. And so he used to do yajnas. He used to do he was all full of doing yajnas and homas very regularly. That's what he wanted to spend his time on. He wanted to invoke Indra's blessings for doing the yajna. The story goes that in the Mahabharata it is discussed that, in the Ramayana it was discussed that Bharata is the Yajamana. He's the one who is doing the yajna. And so therefore, all the prasada should come to him. But his sayings are, Indraya Swaha Namama. May it all go to Indra. May it go to Antaryami. Not to me. So the question was, if Bharata is doing a yajna and he wants the ability to function as a Raja, that's what he was doing the yajna for, then may you protect me for being a very effective king. That's what he wanted to do. May you do that. But he is really offering everything to Indra. What is going on? How can that happen? You should say this should come to me. Then the rishis pointed out, no, that's not the case. What happens is, Ishvara, staying in the heart of Bharata, is praying. And the same Ishvara, staying in the heart of Indra, is receiving the prayers. Both the Karta as well as the Bhokta are really nothing but Ishvara alone. So this is what was pointed out in the commentary of so Purva Paksha was raised. There's something funny going on in Bharata's yajna, and say no, nothing is Kariti. It's the same person. The functionary is Bharata, and the functionary is also Indra, but the reality of behind them is really nothing but Ishvara alone. So this discussion we will continue on. We need more time, and so we will hopefully finish this particular topic of Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hriddeshe Arjuna Tishtati. This we will study and then go into more detail in the next class. Okay, so with that, let me close today's class. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Finish this particular topic. Yeah. So instrument you can say, yes. And in Kannada, as you say, it's machinery. Yes, that's exactly right. An appliance, yantra. So yeah, your understanding is correct. Good to see you all. Wonderful. This is a very important topic, and one we will spend more time on. And it so happens that in the 6th chapter of Panchadashi, it's the 6th chapter. Sixth chapter, verse number 171 of the 6th chapter. Vidyaranyaji discusses this in several verses, this whole thing. And so I kind of recall that in my mind, and I started to look into that. And what I will do is, as we continue with this particular topic for next time, we will borrow the verses from Panchadashi. And of course, Swami Akhandanandaji's discourse is much shorter on this one topic, but very, very relevant and very right on the topic. But the more expansive version of that is Swami Mahesharandaji's commentary on the 6th chapter of Panchadashi. So I intend to not do it for all the verses, but I will import the content from the Panchadashi to complete a more thorough understanding of this topic, that Ishvara is the Karta. And there is a thick layer of non-understanding. How can it be? I'm the one who is doing everything. So this will take a lifetime of learning. But we must at least understand what the Shastra is saying and follow it and begin to see that I'm making some error. And this is the way to understand the role of Ishvara and to diminish the untimely role of myself in my own life. It's a very beautiful topic. So we will continue to spend some time on that. All right, so I don't see any questions, so I will take your leave and we'll hopefully see you next week. Hari Om.